I think we made up for last time.
Yeah, I feel like a little kid in like middle school percussion, like holding this can up to my face, like eye level, so the audience and the conductor can see, and just like, good job. Like you got to show them what you're playing.
Yeah, if they can't see it, how are they going to hear it?
But we're back in the saddle, part 2 with Mr. Jared Kortz, as we had mentioned on our posts, and then the last podcast, we didn't cover everything we wanted to do or we wanted to get to, so we were certainly eager and glad to have him join us to catch up and talk and chit-chat back and forth again. Welcome back, Jared.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah,
Thanks for the part 2.
Yeah. I think you are only the second person to do 2 parts with us. Dan Shack was the only other one, because obviously he talks a ton, so you got to have more than an hour with that guy. So we're going to dive right into this here in a second, but before we do that, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and with me as always is...
Evan Worrell.
And like you said, we have part 2 today with our friend Jared Kortz, and... make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube, subscribe and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, hit us up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, whatever your preferred podcast method is. And as we announced in part 1 with Jared, we also have a Patreon page now at patreon.com/agedoutpodcast. And the direct link to that will be in our Instagram bio and in the information section of the YouTube video. So if you so choose to give us any kind of financial support, that's your opportunity to do that. But again, as we said last time, no expectation. We just wanted to put it there just in case. We're going to keep doing this no matter what, and we appreciate you as a member of our audience. So now that whole spiel's out of the way, the biggest thing we forgot to talk about last time was probably, and Jared, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the best bass line that Jared was probably ever in, and maybe one of the best bass lines WGI's ever seen, the Rhythm X 2011 bass line. Would that be a fair statement? You're allowed to brag a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was for sure like the most, just because all 5 were age outs. Mm-hmm. Like it just felt like there was always like that aspect of like, this is our last gung ho, and the fact that all 5 of us were doing it together was crazy. Because then, it like also came to that point, like knowing the guys throughout marching, like the marching career of like meeting them at Bluecoats, and I met Frank Torres, who played bass 2 that year, when he was at Crown. But he knew a friend that I was marching with at Glassman. The whole drum corps friend connection.
Small network of people.
Yeah. It's just like all these people so fast. Like everyone's already like everyone knows everybody to an extent.
The biggest...
it was just an awesome collection of just super talented, but like funny individuals. Like the personalities in that bass line were just so refreshing.
So we'll get into a few stories about that bass line, just fun stories in a second. Okay. But the biggest thing I remember from a playing standpoint about you guys is from day 1, we're learning the first set of drill charts. And in between on breaks, you guys are picking your drums up and just like nailing the opener. Like I remember you guys arced up on a water break one time. This is probably in December or like very early January. And we're all sitting there drinking water, just like hanging out, talking. And you guys arc up and start playing the opener, and it's like nails already. I don't remember a time where you guys were bad at your show music at any part of the season. It was just nuts to me.
Yeah, to us, it was probably still like, Yeah, there
were probably little nuance
how we
stuff.
always are.
There would have been like nuance stuff that would have gone over my snare drum head, pun intended. But it was just nuts to me the whole time. And then besides that story, the first story that sticks out was when Frank air guitared with the wig he found in the drama class closet.
Oh, yeah. We used to do subs up there. That was crazy.
That's probably one of my favorite moments of that year. Just I don't even remember what else was going on. I don't remember what we were actually working on, to be honest.
I'm blanking on his alter ego, but it was like Frank's alter ego that came out or something like that. Like he kept this wig all season. Do you guys remember that at all?
Yeah, I remember the
I do.
wig.
Yeah.
I remember him coming up.
Yeah.
But I just remember that time where we're in there in Kettering Fairmont High School in the band room rehearsing. Then all of a sudden the bassist come in like crowd surfing him with his wig on, playing the air guitar.
And
just
then whoever was running
immediate-
rehearsal put a rock song on, or some like rock ballad over the speaker system, and he like was like air guitaring and like mouthing the words to the song along with it and getting into people's faces. It was probably one of the funniest things I encountered in all of my marching career, and to this day probably one of the funniest things I've just seen in person, period.
Yeah.
He was
That's
just a crazy human being.
Oh yeah. Going back to the so we all came from like different areas, you know, and I think the biggest thing that we had to gel in, because we all had pretty much like the same technique. It wasn't like everyone knew we were doing like a wrist break aspect, you know, but just like how like Frank had awesome sound quality, but like it was like it was a little bit more harsh than what mine was. So like we had to balance each other out, which was awesome, you know, like getting into like the big timbre of it, of just like trying to balance between all these like different techniques. And we never really talked about what technique. It was just like, does this sound like the same? Like, it, you know what I mean? Like we tried to just simplify it and not get like crazy mathematical about whatever. It was just like, cool, we're just doing this.
That's awesome.
That laid back statement about it was also your all's mentality all season. Like none of you five, I remember getting mad at anything or mad at each other or sweating any small stuff that happened. Like you all were just hanging out, having a good time, being really good.
Yeah. But I think we were also at that point where we were like, I mean, we were still age outs, so you get that like, I don't want to like run this far, or like I just want to make this a little bit easier, you know what I mean? So we just tried to we were for sure still age outs.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you want to be good, but you don't want to.
Yeah.
You want to have a good time also.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh. That's like should be Rhythm X's motto on a shirt. We want to be good, but we also want to have a good time. Which brings me to something that I skipped over at the beginning, kind of on a different topic real quick, that happened this past weekend with regards to Rhythm X, that also sums up that ensemble to a T. Jared, did you hear about Crashy Bongo?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I've seen it. Seen the vids. Love it.
Evan, you're a better storyteller than I. Do you want to tell everybody kind of what happened?
I mean, if people haven't seen it, I guess there was a malfunction or an issue with the semi-trailer that transports the equipment. They were going up to WGI up to Chicago for the WGI Regional in Chicago. It's a same-day event, so the prelims were Saturday and finals were later that night. But the truck wasn't going to make it there in time for them to unload all the equipment, all the pit equipment and all that, and just be able to perform the show. But I believe it's a WGI rule that in order to qualify for finals, you have to perform in prelims, like no matter what that is. There's been some other instances where this has happened. I think Redline did it once. Timber Creek, when they were an independent ensemble down in Florida, I believe, did it once. So they had to do something, no matter what it was. So lo and behold, they come up with this, I guess, place filler of an idea to do this bongo with crash cymbals. If you haven't seen it, just Google it, in order to get their spot to qualify for finals when their equipment was able to make it. But it just, like you said, kind of encapsulates the vibe of the ensemble. Like, well, if we're going to go out and do this, we might as well like ham it up, do something that's super funny. There's already people that have like transcribed the part and stuff and put it up as like transcriptions and stuff. But to me, what's the funniest thing really is just the subtleties. Like, even though they didn't have their tarp, like Tim Fairbanks is still out there on the floor, like doing like the 1, 2, 3 pull, like you would do to stretch out the tarp, even though there's clearly no tarp. They run and fold the tarp off, or like pulling it off the floor like they actually have it and stuff. like they're in a hurry, even though they've only done like 20 seconds of a thing.
The funniest part of it
Right.
to me was not what they did, but was, so obviously we're all friends with Tim Fairbanks on Facebook, and he put a post on there earlier that day or the night before when they knew the truck was messed up and wouldn't be available at the time. He said, Evan mentioned that Redline had this happen to them, and that they currently hold the lowest score ever of an independent WGI percussion group. I think the record of like 36. And so Tim basically put a shout out on his Facebook of, hey, we need to beat Redline's lowest score. I'm open to suggestions on what we should do. And so their goal was to get a lower score so they could hold the record for lowest score in WGI history. And like that also kind of encapsulates the approach and the mentality of Rhythm X's staff and the members. And we want to be good, but we're going to have a good time at the same time.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd just bring that up for a minute. And if you haven't gone and checked it out, it's pretty funny to watch the videos on YouTube.
Probably also one of I'm sure nobody's actually keeping track of this statistics, but the biggest jump from a prelims to final score, I would say that also probably
Yeah.
happened.
I hadn't thought about
and speaking of scores too, I will throw this out there. I know on our last podcast with Jared, we had talked about them winning that Fred Sanford from, was it 7th place or whatever?
Yes, sixth place. Yeah.
One guy actually did say the lowest placing Sanford winner was the 82 Bridgman, which I didn't actually look up what place they got until I just now thought about it. But one of our listeners, Jeff Ream, he was like, yeah, I was listening, and I looked it up. So I was like, sweet, thanks.
That's awesome.
Well, now we know. So the 82 Bridgman.
Dude, Bridgman.
Yeah,
the Bridgman were
back.
so good.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
when they're at Allentown all the time, it's like, sweet. I love it.
Yeah. They were
Just
so good.
classic drum corps. People soak it up. Dude, Allentown is such a drum corps rich area.
Yeah.
East Coast.
Yep.
Old school.
Yeah.
We need to try to get
I considered that my
Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
I always considered that my like not home show in a sense, but it was like, all right, Pennsylvania, a bunch of college friends from Philly, or just like all around from Maryland, whatever. They would that's where everyone would kind of go.
Because you're from the west part of the state, right? Near Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Didn't you get pulled over one time and a cop let you go because you had a Penguins hat in your car or something like that? Or he let you out of a ticket?
I don't know.
I feel like that was a story going to Rhythm X. He's like, yeah, he pulled me over, but I had a Pittsburgh Penguins hat in the back of my car or something.
I don't remember.
I maybe just made that up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's reel this in. Before we get too far off the tracks.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's mostly our fault, honestly. So the next thing we want to move to is, and we kind of discussed this a little bit before we started recording, we both feel like that bass drumming has kind of experienced a little bit of a renaissance over the past 5 to 10 years, and just kind of wanted to pick your brain as to why you think that might be, because I know bass lines, there's always been a lot of good bass lines, but just the difficulty of content of what they're doing now seems, an achievement level outside of the top 3 or 4 drum lines every year has gone way up. Like the talent in bass lines and the ability of them is just gone through the roof recently. So why do you think maybe that is? Some catalysts for it, and we'll just kind of riff off that and go from there.
Yeah. Honestly, I think like the kids nowadays are like, first off, we talked about this last time, but like exposure to like exercises or just like drumming, like as a bass drummer, like I'm still practicing rudiments. I'm still doing this kind of stuff. Like it's not so much like splits, you know what I mean? Like you still want to hang as much as you can to get like your chops up and stuff.
But yeah, because it makes sense. The more chops you have, the harder, crazier stuff you're going to be able to split.
Right.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and then like I think more, at least when I was like around it, like it was the more grids. Like that's when more grids started showing up and just like trying to split that. I remember like the big thing that went around was like splitting the whole like 16th note accent tap thing. Like that was like a thing that I saw a lot of people trying, and you know, it was just like, cool, this is where that partial is after the fact. But then like introducing, like you always hear about the like top 2 bass drummers, like being able to split, or like, you know, 3 and 4 and bass 5, just having the ability. But it's like really adding a drum. So like when boogadas became that big thing, like adding like
Almost
the third bass to it.
The third drummer
Yeah.
to the hand-to-hand concept, if you will.
Right. Yeah. So it was like cool. And then like I remember 2014? I don't know. Rhythm X, we're trying to do like we were splitting the 6 tuplet, but it would be 3 people hand to hand. We did it 9-lit too. I think that was 2014. But it didn't. It was like, all right, we're not gonna. It didn't make sense. It was like, cool, we could do that, but musically, it like didn't really fit. You know,
there was no place for it.
Yeah. So it was like, cool, all right. And then,
so now,
as
like,
you go on, like lasers are a big thing.
like 1 and a 2, like,
like
down each drum, down the drums.
Yeah, because at first it was like, all right, what rhythms can we play, like kind of open, just but really loud, like getting out to like past parallel, just playing like boogadas or 16th note down the line, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like lately it's been into, I think, more condensed rhythm. Like, not that it's like we gotta throw as many notes in these 4 beats as possible, but it's like the laser, like Cavaliers did something recently where it was just like super fast between the top 4. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They did it in like a 30-second. I was like, I was just like, what?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think like since that has kind of happened, like now everything that has been played before is like, all right, this is just what is the basics. Like you got to be able to split this partial and nail it, and just like have that trust with everybody else, you know?
So you think it's a little bit of just like a natural progression of just trying to one up the baseline before you a little bit. Like, well, they tried this for the first time, so what's the next level of difficulty beyond that? And just naturally over time, as people try to outdo baselines before them, they're going to get crazier and crazier. And you combine that with the fact that there's way more exposure and resources for kids out there to learn from a younger age.
Yeah.
They're going to be way better when they first get to their first summer of drum corps. So even your top open class baselines or your 15th place core baseline now have the ability and do a lot more of this hand-to-hand stuff and boogadas and lasers, and because the overall average talent level's higher because they've been exposed to this from a much younger age. And then I think so even then, seeing those baselines do crazier things will then attract more people to want to play bass drum versus being drawn to just snare drum in high school like a lot of kids are. They're realizing at 15, they're seeing these videos of like, did you see the Rhythm X top 2 split that crazy lick really early in the season this year?
Yeah.
So like that was nuts. So you're seeing that as a 14-year-old. You might go, I want to do that. Forget the snare drumming thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I feel like a little bit of like recently too, well, maybe not super recently, but there's been a lot of like front ensemble splitting happening where it's just like they're doing stuff and it's like, you know, like it's kind of led into other aspects, or like you always see like the snare drums doing stuff, but
no, I
really?
see it. I don't like it.
Well, Mike and I don't like the snare splits. It doesn't sound good.
I've noticed more of it.
Or there's like the kids doing the hand-to-hand split on the snare drums.
Sure.
Yeah. Avon or Center Grove High School or something like that. They had it in there.
Yeah, it's
but
still
like
there.
I think these kids see it on Instagram, and it's kind of like a keep up with the Joneses mentality. Like you have the classic stick control exercise, that right, left, right, and they're like, oh, let's see if we can hand-to-hand split the whole thing now. Like they just do different stuff like that, and like, oh, what can we do, and like film ourselves and put it on Instagram or whatever.
Everybody's trying to be famous, man.
Even like splitting like open roll, just doing like the doubles and just doing like the split on that is it feels good. Like it's like once you're in there, you just gotta just play doubles forever.
Just don't change.
Just don't change. If it sounds good, just don't change.
You just gotta split the first haircut and keep going.
Yep.
Oh man,
That's it. If you dislike change, just be a bass drummer. I'm just kidding.
Oh man. All right.
Snare lines
All right.
over here changing pulse, and the bass drummers are like, "Come on, guys."
Yep.
Our bass line was talking about that this past week, and they're like, "Snares are slowing down." Here. I was like, "I know, we'll get it."
Give us a minute.
There were parts. I gotta say this, like, because at Phantom 2010, like they would put the Met where it needed to be. You know, most of the time it was behind snares, but like it always felt like there was a lot of areas where it was like we were the farthest ones back, and it just like kind of followed us, and then they could just play to that. You know.
Yeah,
It was pretty
nice.
sweet.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
So let's get into your
Yeah.
teaching career now. We've done a lot of talking
Okay.
about places you've marched, talked about bass drumming so
Yeah.
far, different bass lines you were in. Well, actually, if you had to, what is your favorite drum corps or indoor story from when you were marching? Like funny story. Keep it PG-13, please.
Yeah.
I have to preface
On the
that
spot.
question with that. If you had to pick like a really funny thing that happened while you were marching at any group, whether it was Matrix, Glassman, Phantom, Rhythm X, like what your favorite or one of your favorite standout moments in your memory from your time?
Yeah. There's so many. The one, and it's, I'm kind of being selfish. It kind of related to like only happening to me, but looking back, it like how it affected everybody. Like just, I don't know. It was crazy. So 2008 or no, yeah, this is 2008 Glassman. It was right after the Miami or the Orlando regional. I actually woke up like 2 days later or whatever, just unable to go to the bathroom. Like it was like I felt like super dehydrated, but I was like chugging water and everything. Ended up like not feeling good. Went to like the admin and they were like, "All right, let's get you to like the hospital real quick." And so they take me. Long story short, had kidney stones, and yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, injury story, but it was it makes me laugh. But it's gonna be
Probably
a
not
lot.
them.
Yeah, not
What's your favorite
Yeah.
story from drum corps? Oh, the time I had to pee rocks.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, so, and this explains it. Like this kind of shows how I kind of treat everything, especially during the drum corps times. You know, like so I have kidney stones, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna have to you're gonna be on this medication that is gonna make you super susceptible to the sun, like because it was like
Oh, God.
like trying to get me to like break it up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
So you could pass them.
Yeah, and but it was like I got back and they were like, I was like, here, like this is what they said, but I just started putting on like long sleeve shirts and I had like the hat covered, like I was still in pain. Like the biggest thing, like when I got back, like no matter if I was sitting out or if I was marching, the same pain was constant. So it was like at that point, I'm just going to get out there because it's going to take my mind off of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine as well.
Yeah, if it hurts
and
either
it-
way, you might as well still get better.
Right. And it was like, I remember that was leading into San Antonio. Like it was like, we got this like week going into the San Antonio regional. So I was like, I want to be good for that, you know? So yeah, I remember my bass tech. So got kidney stones, had to be on this medication. They told me I had to triple my water intake, which I was already killing a gallon or so every block. Like it was like
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, so you're telling me I have to like 9 gallons of water a day? Like, it was crazy. But like my bass tech, and love the dude. I talked about him before, Cyrus. he just carried my water jug around like the whole time, just like after every rep, just like drink, and it would be like, all right, I gotta go now. Like, so I would just leave, and I was so out of it. Like, if you saw me then, it just like blank stare, but I was just so in what I was just trying to overcome. It was just one of those like, yeah,
shut off everything else. Like, I'm gonna do everything I have to do mentally and physically to like get through this.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. That's an awesome story, but also very not what you would expect someone to say.
I almost
Right.
said the same
I love
thing. It's not the story I expected, but it's
I mean,
still a good one.
yeah,
Some of the stories that are probably really good, we probably can't talk about on here, but
right.
And honestly, too, probably the thing I remember most about like my time marching were when I was injured or sick. So that makes sense.
So let's dive into teaching stories. Not stories, your experience. So where all you've taught,
Okay.
kind of how you how'd you get into teaching and making that transition from marching to teaching? Did it happen right away? Did people reach out to you? You reach out to them? How did it all happen?
So I took the 2011 season off. Like I was like, cool. Like I aged out. Like if I get asked, it would be awesome. But it also like, I liked it because I had like a summer just like to chill and kind of do that. You know what I mean? Focus on other things. And then I was asked to teach Rhythm X on my way back from like finals 2011. So Ryan called me like that weekend because he knew I was like really interested in like trying to make the move out to Ohio at that point. It took a couple more years for me to get out there, but like I still did that drive with Rhythm X, you know. But I got called. I think it may have been Ryan who did the recommendation, but Crossman was losing their bass tech who was like committed for like the whole summer, and they just kind of another call-in story. Like I didn't do any other audition camps. It was like maybe end of February is when I got the call.
What summer was that for?
That was 2012 Crossman.
Nice.
So yeah, that season was a lot.
Who was teaching there? Who was the caption head at that point?
Clark Gardner
Okay.
was there. Josh Turner.
I don't know any
You
of these
guys
people.
know well, you know Jules though. Jules.
Yeah, Sconia.
Yeah, so he was teaching the front ensemble. It was that was like my first experience of like after marching X and then teaching X. Like I knew everybody, but it was like teaching drum corps. I didn't do any of the camps, so everything that like I didn't get to like meet all the staff. So it was like you show up to spring training and you're the bass tech. You know what I mean?
Not really time to
Yeah.
hang out and catch up. You just got to go do
Yeah.
work.
Right, exactly. So, and Andrew Markworth was involved too. So he would come down every once in a while and hang out during spring training. It was cool.
How was spring training in Texas? Was it crazy hot?
So it was crazy hot, always in the middle block. Like it would say that it was like 98, whatever, felt like 102, or like it always just felt like it was more. But we would do the classic shade breaks. Like if it was like deadly hot, you know, we would try to get through this in like percussion ensemble, and then like, all right, take a quick little bit. We're coming back, and then we're doing this. You know what I mean? Like it was like just trying to be most efficient without trying to like just destroy ourselves with the heat.
Yeah.
So, but it would get cloudy. Ensemble block was always nice. Like it always felt like it was like if you go down to Florida and you're like on the beach, like just like at nighttime, still warm. That's how Texas felt, you know. Like it was
Nice.
I enjoyed it, and the sunsets were beautiful. Always like the iconic drum corps post of sky appreciation.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Ensemble at the stadium.
right, exactly. But it's so cool because it's like like stadium lights are on. You're you have that going.
You got the mojo kind of going. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Was JJ Pepitone down? He lived down there,
Yeah.
right?
I believe so.
Didn't he like come hang out at like spring training and stuff like that? Or
Yeah, that was for 2016 season.
okay, so that's jumping a little bit there.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense. All right.
Because his son marched that summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has his son aged out yet? Do you know?
I think he's still marching.
I think he is. Yeah.
He did BD
Yeah.
last summer, and that's why JJ hasn't been judging for a while, because he's not allowed to judge while his son's marching, which makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you taught at Crossman.
Then we'll probably
2012.
lose Prosperity here in a couple years because his son will be.
Yeah.
He's taken random years off anyway. Like, he didn't judge in 2012
Right.
at all, just because he wanted a summer off from judging. But yeah, his son's getting there. Man, all these like Hall of Famers, their sons or kids are just like Alan Ungst was a beast. Pipitone's son is really good. I'm sure Prospery's son is going to be phenomenal, or might already be. I don't know. Just having that, Evan and I have laughed about that. Like, what if your dad or like a relative was a Hall of Famer? Like, you just had lesson information, like of the highest level on demand whenever.
Yeah.
So you guys are down there in Texas. You've got some
Yeah.
consecutive years, I guess, going.
Oh, yeah.
We'll stick with outdoor before we switch gears
Okay.
to indoor teaching and
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
Spring training. Did you guys like have like a getaway, or like just like this is kind of like the staff tradition down here? Or we go here at night and hang out, or
Yeah, we did. It's still to this day the place to hang, even at like the San Antonio camps. Like, we make the drive to the stadium, or like to like that area to go to Charlie Brown's. Love that place. Yeah, it was like right down the street.
I'm assuming it's a typical drum corps hole in the wall bar.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
every spot that a drum corps staff has in any city is some hole in the wall that someone discovered by random chance.
yeah, and it was like the one bartender. He ended up like marching in the Blue Knights like years before. It was like sweet.
Small world.
that's funny.
Small
Yeah.
world.
Dude, that's funny. Very ironic because teaching Cap City, this guy just opened up this bar near where we rehearse, and we go there. It's super chill. It's like low key. But then one night, one of his like staff members like, "So you guys like know what drum corps is?" And we're all sitting at the table like, "Yeah, we do."
Yeah.
Like, little does he know that we all like know very much a lot
Right.
about drum corps. But it's
Right.
just kind of ironic. And so like now that's the place that we go, or like the bar goes, where Rhythm X goes. It's kind of
Right.
funny where people have their kind of just, this is our get together spot.
Right. Yeah, Charlie Brown's they're super nice too. Like, we always at some point it's like we were just like always there, or like we would take nights off or whatever, but at least maybe the color guard staff would go, and like maybe everyone else stayed back, or like everyone was like still going out to like hang, you know what I mean? Like, it was they were expecting us, yeah.
Detox after rehearsal and just kind of get away from things for a bit.
Yeah. And like we were able to play pool and karaoke, and you know, it's a lot of fun.
Have real life while you're also doing summer band.
Yeah, but that's where we also talk shop. Like, that's where you know what I mean? Like, in those situations, you kind of talk shop a little bit, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is on the agenda for tomorrow. This is kind of like what we
But
need
never
to,
in like business. It was always like, oh yeah, bass drums are blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. we're just getting better, man. I don't know.
Very informal. But
Yeah,
I've always-
exactly.
the informal settings like that, I think, lead to more effective communication. Like, everybody's laid back,
Right.
nobody's on the defensive. You're all just kind of being real with each other.
Right. And you guys brought up Bargos, but honestly, like, that's what kind of happens there all the time with everybody who kind of goes there. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like we were just talking shop, talking band all the time.
Who'd have
just
thunk?
like what we're doing here.
Yeah,
Right,
basically.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you taught Crossman. Where'd you go after that?
I taught Blue Coats. I taught Crossman 12 and 13, and then Blue Coats 2014.
That was
And then-
was 14 Tilt?
That was Tilt.
Yeah, okay. Awesome
Still my favorite Blue Coats show.
I I might agree
biased
with
on
you.
it, obviously, but I still really the simplicity of that concept. Those are the shows I like.
It reminds me a lot of Touch in the regard that you just take this simple, very easily portrayed idea and max it out in a number of different ways, and not only visually but audio and visual.
Right.
I mean, that's what Touch was. That's what Tilt was. Like, oh, we're just going to tilt things any possibly way we can. Tilt this visually, tilt this musically. It was cool.
Yeah. And it never
It was
felt
a good drum corps.
Yeah, that didn't hurt either.
They were really good.
That didn't hurt either.
Yeah.
That also might be one of my favorite Rarick books at the Bluecoats. I think that book overall is just very good.
Yeah. And it was cool, like, collaborating with Rarick and everybody. It felt like, I don't know, Crossman was a little different. Like, I still had a voice, but at Bluecoats, it was like, all right, what I'm, like, bringing to the table, everyone kind of, like, it felt like it was, like, very welcoming in that aspect. Like, I wasn't, like, stepping on toes or anything, you know?
That's cool.
Like,
That's
like
awesome.
being able to collaborate with Rarick and all them and that kind of stuff.
Rarick is just such a chill dude, and I only really know him from like this podcast and meeting him. So shameless plug, if you haven't heard it and you're listening now, there is a Tom Rarick episode that we did with him in his hotel at WGI Finals one weekend.
Between
semis and finals, yeah.
Yeah, so he judged semis. We met him in his hotel room, recorded the episode, and then he judged finals later that day, I think. I think it was finals day, early in the day we did it. So obviously certain topics were off the table, but it's still a really good episode. Check it out if you haven't.
Yeah. But like my only interaction with him has been through this, and Mike obviously marched under him, so that was kind of the connection and the foot in the door there. But even since then, he's just been like, I see him at shows, says, "Hey, what's up, man?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
Yeah.
Like, so
he's a very
super
very
welcoming
cool
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we saw him playing for the national anthem almost annually on the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's like the annual Tom Rarick sighting playing snare drum at the Super Bowl.
Yep, exactly. I love it.
Yep. He's Navy, right? Or Air Force?
I believe it's Air Force, but
I think it's Air
I'm not
Force.
positive in my memory.
I'm not either.
It says it on whatever episode and his Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, but all right.
So Bluecoats. Did you just do the one summer at Bluecoats?
Yeah, just the one summer.
Cool.
So
That's a good summer.
Yeah, I loved it.
What made you decide to leave Crossman to go to Bluecoats?
So 2013 season was really unique. So the biggest thing that I think why I kind of left Crossman, teaching with Ryan Lamb at Rhythm X, and honestly just staying at his place. Like, he hosted the Baseline our age out year. Like, he was teaching Bluecoats since 2009. He like kind of really got me in there. Because at that point he wasn't trying to fade himself out, but he was taking on a lot more responsibility elsewhere. Like, this was like Sycamore, like he just got that job, I believe. Like, he was starting to be like band director, you know?
Yeah.
So he asked, and I was like, sure. 2013 Crossman, I had a lot of fun. That show, I think we ended up not making finals that year. I think it was like 14th. Which, by the way, 2013 Crossman had the most turnout of bass drummers I ever seen. And I could be wrong, but there was over 70 bass drummers there.
Holy cow.
For the 2013 season, just because 2012 we like made finals in the first time since I don't remember how many years, but it was like super, like Crossman was like, oh man, making finals. So I remember, this is way off topic, but 2013, there were full high school bass lines that showed up. I think there was like 3 or 4 like full bass lines showing up, just trying to like. It was crazy. It was like all of Texas, not all of Texas, but like
the entire state. Every bass drummer in Texas was there.
Freshman, sophomore, yeah, it was like I mean, it was like the youngest to obviously we had age outs auditioning too. So it was like so many people. Yeah, it was crazy. Anyways,
That's awesome. At least
Yeah.
like, hey man, kids, if that's a way to do it, if you're like nervous to go audition, just take your whole baseline. You can all be nervous together.
There you
Whatever.
go. That way you at least know somebody.
Right. And it happens more often now. Not maybe whole baselines, but for sure a couple kids, And so yeah, going back, Ryan got me in Bluecoats, and it was cool because I already was teaching a bunch of the guys from Rhythm X. Dante was in that line. Tommy, of course. That was his age out.
Was Aaron Ferris still there?
No, Aaron aged out the 2013.
13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2013 was his last year.
Yep. Same with Kevin. I think Kevin aged out then too.
Also true.
Kevin aged out the winter of 14, whatever that
Yep.
was. But
Yeah.
he had the bonus winter.
Razor's Edge, yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was like, and then Mike Kavanaugh, who played bass 3 that year, but he was like Centerville kid, go march in. He actually got called in for 2012 Crossman 13, and then we went to Bluecoats together. Like he just kind of
Nice.
followed that, So it was like I already felt comfortable. I already knew everybody. It was like, all right.
And like, was Tim still there at that point? Jackson?
No.
No, he
Okay.
only did his 2 years as visual caption head
Oh,
was
that was
12 and
earlier.
13. 13 was his
Yeah.
only other year he did after my summer.
Yeah,
That's right.
It was T-Gas, Dan, Recoder teaching quads, Amador, Joe Woody.
Joe Woody.
Yep. So yeah, it was awesome staff. Jared Thomas was still there too, and Ryan and myself.
I always forget that Jared Thomas, despite being a snare drummer, teched the bass line at rhythm at Bluecoats for like 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, rhythms are rhythms, no matter what drum you're on.
Right.
Team Jared holding
Yeah.
it down.
Is he back
Yep.
from Australia yet?
No, he's still.
He is still there.
You
His
still keep
birthday
up with-
is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say his birthday is 2 days before mine, so it's like, yeah.
Nice.
Another
The
shameless
connection.
plug.
Yep.
We also had Jared Thomas on the podcast, and it was like an hour and 45 minutes long. Go check that one out. It's pretty interesting. He's a
think
good
it was-
guy.
I think that was just before he left to go to Australia.
It was very close. So it's about 2 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
But so Blue Coast 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Past that,
Loved-
what
lo-
happened?
So, loved it. Like that was like first time medaling in drum corps. That was really sweet.
As a teacher,
Like
right?
they got as a teacher. Like you guys, I know asked if I would trade it for gold, like the said Sanford for gold, but it was like it felt cool just having like those kids get the silver.
Mhm.
It was like that was sweet.
I forget they were second that year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Beat the BD win, probably.
I believe so.
Yes, they did.
Cadets third, I think.
I think you're right. Was that the Angels and Demons show?
No, they won that year.
That was
2011. 13. Oh, 13, yeah.
Was it 13?
No, it was 11, because 13 was the
11.
year they won the drum trophy, I think, with
That's
that
right. That's right. Yeah.
Samuel Barber stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
13 was a drum trophy for the cadets. Man, was Angels and Demons really the summer between my 2 summers? I thought I'd aged out when they did that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2011, because
I think it was
Kevy's won
11.
the drum trophy that year.
I love that show. All right, that's an aside. So
Yeah.
keep going. Continue.
So, the transition. So, teaching Rhythm X for a while. Josh Bricky was ending up getting the caption head position at Crossman, and he was just trying to get a team together. So it was like go back to Crossman with all these like Rhythm X guys, and felt like it was like starting a new Crossman era,
Mm-hmm.
And so like Josh asked me, and it was like, yeah, I'm down. I already know how the organization is. Like, I I didn't leave it because it was like the organization. I just had this opportunity to teach Bluecoats, and so yeah, it felt awesome. 2015 is still the most fun I have ever had during a summer ever.
Why?
Just because the people on the drum staff, like we joked around, but it was like we just had so much fun together. It was like I don't know, it felt like a little like fraternity bro thing. Not really bro thing, but it was like everyone was just there trying to have a good time.
Was Dean Hickman the
Were
quad tech
Dean
this
and
summer?
Hoagie?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Was Dean there that summer?
I can't remember
A
what
little
summer
bit.
he was there.
He was in for a little bit. I think it was 2015.
Because Bricky was the reason he went to Crossman for a summer or two, right?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it had to have been.
And then Andre was teaching too, right? Did
Yeah.
he teach there?
No, Andre came in.
That might have
I
been
think
later.
Andre
Yeah.
replaced Dean. Like when Dean was no longer the quad tech, Andre is the main one that took
Yeah.
over.
Well,
I think.
Dean was never like the main dude, just because he couldn't do like a whole summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
It was. I think it was Tant.
Oh, Mike
Oh,
Tan.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. You're right.
Tant,
yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I love you. I'm blanking. Everything's running together right now.
Just got off of work, trying to
Yeah.
bend your mind back 9 years or however.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes. 15. It's like 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
But yeah, Frank Cummings too, snare tech, and
Frank?
Dan was there.
Oh yeah, Dan
Right.
Shack.
Yep. So it was like,
I
yeah,
forgot those dudes taught there before they moved over to Crown.
yeah. Mike Bishop was there too.
Oh man, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
that's like a
Heck
dream
yeah.
team. That's a heck of a staff.
Yeah, it was like like a lot of awesome people.
That sounds like it would be a really fun summer. And I always had a lot of mad respect for you guys those couple of years that Bricky was like heading up that Crossman percussion section, because was best tap fives in DCI those summers.
Yeah.
The sound quality was really good. The book, from an outsider's opinion, like at least from Snare and Quadland, the books seemed a little easier than a lot of other groups around your all's tier of
Right.
drum corps percussion that summer, but the achievement
Yep.
level and the sound quality was always like top notch.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Well, you never want to overwrite your clarity, I guess you
Yeah,
could say.
I would much
I don't
rather
wanna say-
be a group
I don't want
that
to say overwrite your talent level and like knock the kids, but like that's basically what I'm saying. Like
It's
you
the
don't want to
reality
put
of it.
yourself
I
in a
mean,
bad spot.
you can't get better unless you accept how good you actually were. And you know what? They played their butts off because they were phenomenally clean and the sound quality was great. And if they'd overwritten the book, that wouldn't have been the case. So I'd much rather play an easier book and play it extremely well than play a book that's too hard for us and just be dirty. Clean is the best type.
Tis true.
So you have this awesome 15 summer.
Yeah.
A lot of that group held for the next year, didn't it? In
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, there like I'd say this couple years there was like a decent amount of vets returning.
And also like staff
And-
returning too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and staff. 2015, 2016 were pretty much the same. 17 is when I believe Dan went to Crown.
I think you're right. Because that's why I
Yeah.
think 17 is when Travis took over as like
Yeah.
caption head under Hannum, however that worked.
Yeah.
So
And did you? So you had talked to before with Mike and I, kind of like here and there about like the Met stories and stuff. Did that stuff happen during the summer too, or was that like the winter stuff?
Well, no, not really in the summer, because it was more like we had the drum majors there. Like they would program stuff in the Mets and like have like a whole bunch. They were like, they had their thing, and I wasn't trying to get into that, you know. But it was mostly just like rhythmic stuff. Like sometimes, like I'm just chilling with the bass line in the back. I'm gonna do it. You know, someone's got to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Like
you'll bite the bullet.
And then you're
that
just
guy
gonna
out here.
bump the Met here and there.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like me and Josh always had a good thing because he would just be like, he would say something real quick. He'd be like, "All right, go," and then I would just like immediately start it. Like it was just like always like, there's no time to talk. We're just going kind of thing. Like it was fun.
How far do you think the furthest tempo bump, like as far as like just like I'm gonna dial this up a notch, like getting away from the original tempo?
Oh, that didn't really happen until like 2018 with the mechs. I a few times, but like if we were tracking something, if we were doing like exercises, like if they called something, I would do it then as well, just to like a click or two. But it was really 2018 when I like just kept slowly bumping it, and everyone was going with it. Like it was like there was no one ever noticed kind of thing. Maybe they did.
That's funny. Man,
Pull
this is
the
a
wool
little
over their
fast
eyes.
today.
Yeah. Yep.
I
But
said it.
it was
I said
good.
it on part 1, part 2, the
Uh-huh.
Tomahawk special.
Yeah.
That's what he's like notorious for.
They did that to us one summer, except it wasn't like gradual. It was we came back from like a block, and like parts of the show were like 6 to 8 clicks faster. We're like, all right,
Oh,
like
man.
this is like
Yeah.
this is not the same.
They're like,
Yeah.
let's just not tell them.
I-
Maybe they won't notice.
Yeah. I think it was like there was a part. It was like supposed to be 196. It felt comfortable or whatever, but it would just be like, oh, and how did we get to 200? Oops. Which isn't like a lot, you know what I mean? It's like
It's a
4
minor
clicks or
jump.
whatever, but
It's a minor jump.
yeah, but it's like it's for sure noticeable. Like getting a bunch of reps on that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing that some this weekend. Actually, I was
Not
like,
bad.
we have this one part. It's
Oh.
at 184, and I was like, I don't know, just see what 187 sounds like today.
Right.
Just need to wake them up a little bit.
Yeah, and it was mostly at the time where it was like getting closer to the end of rehearsal, where it's like if we're having a good one, like they're gonna put a lot into like the run through whatever. Like I'm just gonna keep hyping them up, also making them more tired because you know they need
it's
to
good
be.
for you.
Sometimes
It's
you
good
just got to
for you.
work them out.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Build that strength. So
That's
believe
like,
it or not,
did you ever do anything? Oh, go ahead.
no, believe it or not, it's been about 58 minutes, which is crazy to me. I feel like it's been like 10.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Tesla for at least a
Okay.
minute before we let you go.
Okay.
But do you guys have any drum-related stuff you want to hit first real quick?
I got a couple other things.
Okay,
Just
go ahead.
real quick. You don't have to like do super elaborate, but first question, did you ever do that in the summer? Just like kind of like, I know we're not playing well, but we're just going to like kind of beat this into you. And second question, did you feel like it was way more stressful teaching than it ever was marching?
I think so, just because like you're seeing reps over and over again. Like sometimes it's like, man, that like, did that sound better than the last? Like you kind like in the summer, you kind of like start going like just hearing the same thing over and over after a while, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like that perspective kind of just like gets ingrained.
Gets numbing.
Yeah, it does. But it was for after a while, like I never like I tried to turn into like a hype man kind of thing, but it was like at the same time, like I was there just trying to get through what we had to get through, you know, and making sure everyone was feeling good to an extent, you know. It's like whatever we're dealing with now, we're dealing with it. We still have to do the job now. You know, it's not going to happen later. Like that whole cliche aspect of, you know, perform every rep aspect. Like it was trying to get them mentally always just being there,
Yeah.
you know.
I
And
feel
then-
you.
Like the frustration aspect of it. That's the biggest thing is like you see the frustration within them, like not doing this, not doing that, whatever. But it's like you gotta how you approach that is like super important because it can like ruin the rest of the day, or it could, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're always
It's like-
balancing that.
You're trying to navigate their mental well-being as much as
Yeah.
how well they're actually playing.
Right. Or
You
it's
got
just
like a psychology degree in drumming.
yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just like to have fun.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I'd say, and then there's so much more into it with like, you're only in charge of this section. They're only a part of like this bigger picture. You know what I mean? You're putting so much into just teaching this little bit of it, but it's so important.
All the body parts work together.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom. That's all. I guess that's kind of my last thing on drumming, just because I've felt as an instructor, it's just way more stressful trying to hear a rep and then analyze the error, but then also give the member feedback that will help them correct the error. It's like so many thoughts going through your head.
That was for sure like the drum corps aspect of it. Indoor, it felt a lot easier teaching indoor to me because it was just like right there,
Yeah, you don't have to filter through as much stuff. It's just here we are by ourselves. Like,
right.
There's not like, oh, how does this bass feature fit with like the mellophones? It's like, you guys didn't play the bass feature well. Right. We got to do this better. Yeah.
I got to ask you guys, what is your favorite, and I'll just relate it to Rhythm X, like Rhythm X bass line in the past, since like my era ended, like the teaching, like I guess from 12 till now.
12 till now.
Yeah.
All right.
I have to think on
I'm
that for a
sifting
second.
through years.
Me too.
Yeah.
It probably would not be the door year.
No.
Was that 15? 15?
15?
Yeah, not that.
Was
14 was pretty sick. The Razor's Edge year.
That was Tommy and Kevin on 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
They were also on 1 and 2 in 13, right?
14. The 14 book was better for the bass drums, for sure. 16, 17. Last year was pretty good, too. Last year's bass line was pretty nasty.
Yeah,
I would say 14 for me.
Admittedly, I haven't paid enough attention to the bass lines to probably pick one.
Hey, that's okay.
I know Kevin and Tommy might, and you might know more about this and be able to school me when I say Kevin and Tommy might be the best 1 and 2 combo that I've seen. No?
I
mean, for
so.
sure. I think they were really good. I
think just by the nature of like what we talked about earlier, the evolution of bass drum, like
that's fair.
The closer we get to it, just keeps getting better and better.
I will say
last year's bass line was pretty sick.
I'll follow this up with Jared. You might know this. Are the 1 and 2 drummers this summer, this season that's going on right now, the same from last year?
No, because Henry was on 2 last year.
Oh, I did. Sorry, you're right. Henry Iwansky was 2. Yeah. I might go with the video those top 2 guys from this current season put out might be the nastiest bass drum thing I've ever seen in my life.
The jury's out on this winter for me.
I don't know if the whole bass line as a whole is going to be good, but that video, and I have no idea how many takes it took for them to get that rep to be that good. But Jared, that was really impressive what they did, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, like that's probably the nastiest thing I've seen 2 bass drummers do ever. Now, it wasn't in a performance. It wasn't in their book. It might be in their book. I don't know. I haven't seen X's show yet.
It is now, actually.
It is now, yeah.
Oh, man. It's so good. That video's...
They don't do quite the length of it, but they do part of it.
Oh, man.
They do like the crescendo 16ths and like the decrescendo 5-lit and then like end on like the unison.
Whatever rhythms they're playing. It's impressive as all hell. And admittedly, like I said, I haven't paid enough attention to bass lines throughout the years at X to really have a favorite since 2012 or 11. But
I honestly
probably
don't
going to be
remember the alpha bass line. That sounds bad, but
really?
At all. Yeah.
Benji was top bass and Mike was
sorry, Benji. I love both those dudes, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I've met and know the guys that were in bass lines throughout the past 5 or 6 years, but I haven't paid enough attention to have a favorite. But
18,
that's okay.
All the World's a Stage. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of good ones, man.
Jessica and John, good top 2.
X has had a lot of really, really good bass lines throughout the past decade. A lot of really good ones. But so the last thing I want to talk about I'm not sure if we mentioned this in the first part with Jared. He currently works for Tesla. Have you ever met
Sick.
Elon Musk?
I have not.
Have you been in the same room as him?
So he comes in mostly on like Mondays. My weekend is really Monday, Tuesday. So I'm more back half of the weekend of like the week. So,
Is he gonna take over the world?
I mean, that's up to you guys. If you think, I think his influence, for sure has changed because, well, not only are there's like more environmental things happening, like there's more of like, all right, renewable energy is actually like where there's a lot of people really trying to do that. More activists are getting into it. It's, there's a huge movement happening. The whole idea of Tesla and like all that is to just be the acceleration to sustainable energy and transport.
Wasn't there battery technology I saw a while ago, a few years ago maybe, like it was a battery that would be for your home. It was a very, very large battery that was charged by solar power that he was like, you can basically store enough power in this battery to power your home for like a week. So basically you would go on and off the grid. So while the battery was charging, you're on the electric grid fueled by coal and everything else. And then once it was full, your home would no longer draw power from that, and it would just run off the battery for X number of days till it was depleted, and then that cycle would continue. Right. And then because everybody would be alternating on different cycles, it would decrease the amount of people pulling from the power grid and lowering the coal requirements for electricity by like 50% or like 40% or something nationwide.
Right.
So that's a real thing. That's still like something.
It is a real thing. Yeah.
Changing the world.
Yep. So so those power walls are made in the Gigafactory where I'm at. I'm more involved with the Model 3. But yeah, those power walls, you can pretty much be off the grid, like
permanently.
Yeah. So crazy thing, if you guys didn't know this, in Australia, because Australia has been a huge adopter of like the Tesla. There's the power wall, then there's the power pack. Now there's the mega pack, which is like for industrial, like power plants, like pretty much replacing like a peaker plant of like when you have to turn this on to get more energy to a city or whatever. It's kind of like a buffer of like extra electricity, if that makes sense. But a couple years ago, there was like a huge thing with Australia. Did you guys hear about this? You know what I'm talking about? Maybe.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
So there was like a huge blackout, and Elon did his like crazy thing. Like, if we don't have this up in a certain amount of days, like it will just be free. And it was like they were able to get all this, like these power packs to pretty much sustain not all of Australia, but like a certain amount of Australia as just like a backup, because they were having a lot of like crazy blackouts with weather and all that kind of stuff. And he beat the deadline by like 8 days or something like that.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was so quick. But another thing that's happening on Australia is they're building a neighborhood with all these houses. It's like 50,000 plus houses that have the solar tiles on them. If you guys know
That's
about
a big ass neighborhood.
Yeah, and I mean, they want to build, like, this is just to prove and collect data on what they could do with all these houses that have. So the solar tile is just pretty much like a photovoltaic cell inside of like a hard glass that is like, looks like roof shingles. So you're replacing your roof shingles with these tiles that are more like, they're stronger than the terracotta stuff, like all that stuff that's made out of like, it looks like the clay, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like you see that, like you can easily break that with like a sledgehammer. The Tesla glass, it's like pretty, it's like the Cybertruck window. It's the pretty much the same thing, but
hopefully not the one from the demo.
Right. And I got stories about that why they think that it did break.
Okay.
But yeah, so they're building this like not one neighborhood, but they're building these houses that have the solar tile already on them and the power walls. So it's pretty much all these houses aren't going to be tied to a grid whatsoever. It's just going to be like off the grid, but they're interconnected. Like each house that has this is interconnected, but not with it. It's within its own grid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're like kind of running off a similar power supply, but not like
Right.
to like a, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just a big battery of houses that are running themselves.
That's nuts and amazing.
Yeah,
Changing the world, man.
Yeah. So you
And
guys
they're-
say,
and they're going to
is it gonna-
space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to Mars.
Yeah.
Elon's always said, he's like, I'm going to die on Mars or something. That's his like life goal, to like live and die on Mars or
I
something.
mean, maybe it is. I think it's I don't like idolize the guy, but he's making a lot of difference in like right now. So it's cool to be a part of that, and
Changing the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I won't get into like the stocks aspect of it, but like I started in May of 2018, and I got stocks below like $100. Like I'm not going to say whatever, but you know what I mean. As an employee, you get that kind of stuff. So it's crazy, just like how it's going to be a success from just following that. I say a lot. I'm sorry, Ashley.
It's all good. No, this has been interesting. Tesla, and what's the stock price at now? It's been skyrocketing for God knows how many weeks.
Did
it break 1,000 yet?
No.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
I also don't pay attention to it. It's 858 right now.
I have 882 actually. It's up $23 after hours today.
Oh. But yeah, like I don't pay attention to it because I'm not like I'm just there trying to do my job. But like all these outside factors, you always hear about like the bad. Like there's so many haters on it, and it's like it's crazy. But it's like we're just trying to make this thing happen faster and sooner.
Yeah.
So
Well, cool,
you
man.
said you had the Cybertruck window.
Oh yeah, the Cybertruck.
Oh, what happened with the window?
So there's a video of them doing it beforehand, and it doesn't break. But the reason, and I could talk about this because they've also released it, like the true cause, because they hit the door with the sledgehammer before the fact, or like after the fact.
It weakened it.
Because it wasn't a tight seal. Like if they put the window up after the fact, like if they like, all right, hit the door, it's not denting, like that's incredible. But like the window rattles, it's like within its thing, so it didn't have like that tight seal. So that's what kind of caused it to be weak.
So they hit the door with a sledgehammer in the presentation before he threw the rock at the window.
Right.
Okay, and that jostled the window loose, so when the rock was thrown at the window, it shattered. But didn't he do it in like the backseat window too, and the same thing happened?
Well, yeah, it's still the same vibration of the.
Oh, okay. So that would still be affected. Okay. Right. Well, now that we got to the bottom of that,
that's what was released. Yeah. But it still didn't go through. That's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it still didn't
stopped it. Yeah.
Crack all the way through.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I have a bunch of friends who put money down on that already.
Really? Well, it was a lot cheaper than the Roadster one. It was like $100 for the Cybertruck, right?
Yeah.
But the Roadster, like to get like your reservation, wasn't it like $10,000 or something?
I don't know.
No, a guy that I work with.
That Roadster's crazy.
A guy that I work with put $100 down for the truck. He's got a truck reserved.
Yeah.
I can't wait to start seeing Nintendo 64 SUVs driving around the road.
Yeah.
The Halo Warthog.
Yeah.
You saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, all the memes.
Yeah, I'm excited. So they'll bring like cars to the factory. Like the Model Y came over. The semis there every once in a while. There's more semis now, but like you'll see those show up every once in a while.
Those are the self-driving semis, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, all cars since 2016 have the capability of full self-driving. So yeah.
That still scares me, man.
There's the
It's terrifying.
Model S, the Model 3, the X, and the Y.
Yep.
Spells sexy.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, it's so funny. Like you hear about that and it's so funny, but it's like that is hilarious, and I'm glad that is
A thing.
the mentality. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, why not? I mean, whatever. Have fun with it. You're designing these sweet cars and having fun. Like, whatever.
Yeah,
It's like teaching bass drum. We're getting good and we're having a good time.
right.
Yep.
Exactly. Still, you can still look it up. Honestly, the biggest thing that I really enjoy about Tesla is they're still the safest car on the road to date by an extraordinary amount. Like you can look that up.
Safest as in like protection when you get in a wreck.
Yep. All I can't think of the acronym, but like the highway safety, it's like NHTSA. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, whatever
but
it is.
Their tests with the crash dummies, like the data, you can see the graph. Like the Model 3 is the safest at the moment, but how drastically it compares to other cars is crazy.
Nice. Well, Jared.
Yeah.
We are well past an hour. I think we've touched on everything at this point we wanted to. I've got the list you sent out, Evan, that we agreed upon earlier. I think we got to everything.
I think we hit the list. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's close this out, Jared. It was awesome talking to you twice within a week period. Thank you. We will definitely see you at WGI Finals this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Perfect. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around for the whole episode. This part 2 with Jared. Hit subscribe as a reminder on YouTube. Like the video. Leave any comments you want to. Ask us any questions. Follow on Instagram to miss all updates about the podcast, as well as Facebook. Subscribe on podcast services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and another reminder, we now have a Patreon page, patreon.com/agedoutpodcast if you want to donate anything financially to us. And I think the next episode is going to be Evan and I doing our early season WGI impressions, because we'll have had a couple of weeks of shows and videos to watch and enough to talk about. So we will see everybody then.
Yeah.
Peace.
I just want to say thank you guys for listening. Evan, Mike, this has been a lot of fun. Seriously, guys, check out their Patreon page. I'm giving a shout out to that. These dudes have just started this platform and want to share the love, and they're doing the work for it. Give them a little love as well. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, dude. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jared. See you, everybody.